Hi, Cedarville. My name is Damian Sneed, and I've chosen to do my parable project on the unjust judge, found out of the Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter 18, verses 2 through 8. But I will include verse number 1 as I recite from the King James Version. And he spake a parable unto them, to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, saying, There was in the city a judge, which feareth not God, neither regarded man. And there was a widow in that city. She came unto him, saying, Avenge me of mine adversary. And he would not for a while. But afterward he said within himself, Though I fear not God, nor regard man, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. And the Lord said, Hear what the unjust judge saith. Shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth? This is a wonderful parable, and it speaks about persistent prayer. In fact, the main idea in this parable is this: God will respond to the persistent prayers of his people. Remember, Jesus dealt with his second coming in the previous chapter, chapter 17, and he is here in chapter 18 dealing with prayer, both in the parable of the unjust judge as well as the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. And the textual observations I notice here in the parable are these. First of all, Luke is giving the reason for the parable in verse number 1 when he says, To this end. Jesus is saying that men should always engage in prayer to God and not give up or lose heart. Verses 2 through 5, Jesus is telling a story, and as we have been studying, Stephen Smith said that Luke is telling a story about Jesus telling a story. And so Jesus is telling this parable about a widow who is approaching a wicked judge. I would liken that to the helpless seeking help from those who have the power to help. Verses 2 through 5, Jesus deals with this widow who is deficient of a husband. She's destitute, she's helpless, she has no one to plead her case, and she is the victim of injustice. And so she goes constantly to this judge who acts as if he does not care about her plight. In fact, the Bible says for a while he has ignored her pleas for help. And the reason is because he's unjust, he's evil, he's wicked, he's unrighteous. He cares not about the plight of this woman. In fact, he says about his own self that he does not fear God nor have respect for man. But he finally gives in. He changes his mind, not because he wants to help this helpless woman or extend mercy unto her, but because of the persistence of this woman. He understands in his own mind that she would literally wear him out by her persistent pleas. And so to keep her from approaching him, he gives her what she needs. Jesus in verses 6 through 8, he gives the interpretation here. And I like to think that Jesus is talking about the people of God approaching the throne of God. Now, in no way is this unrighteous judge like our righteous God. But Jesus is namely saying this, that if an unrighteous judge can administer justice or give help after the constant pleas of a helpless person, how much more so would the righteous judge give help and aid and justice to those who plead to him? And that justice, of course, is soon given, in fact, by our loving and merciful and powerful God. Jesus raises the question to his disciples in light of his coming. He says, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith in the earth? So we know that in the end times, or when Jesus comes back, there will be a scarcity of faith. I like to believe that Jesus is suggesting that faith needs to be exercised in God constantly while we are down here waiting on our God, and in fact waiting on our Christ to return. Thank you.